Welcome back to the shop. Today I'm just tinkering around, cleaning up, and I've been kicking something around for a while, and I was thinking about restoring it. I needed to wait for some parts before I got into it, though. And that's this knife, and I'm not really confident that I know what this is for. It is extremely thick. It is probably, the better part of 3/8 of an inch thick on the back, and it's relatively sharp here, and then it has this wedge pry. I don't know if this is some sort of a roofing pry tool. It's got what appears to be some type of leather-ish handles rivet onto this with these rivets. And Scoutcrafter was kind enough to put up a special on rivets, and I wasn't sure whether this was homemade. But anyway, I need to remove these rivets and clean this up, and I think this is going to be pretty interesting because knives are very handy in the shop. I've got the typical utility knife, which goes a long way, and then of course I did this prison shank style knife that was made with a piece of water pipe. So there's always room for more knives in the shop. So I figured this would be a fun one to restore, and the only way to really properly get in there and clean this is to remove these rivets. So I will drill these out, I suppose, and try to save the leather if I can. I don't know how that'll clean up. We'll just have to figure it out together. So let me get started. Now, I failed to really do any real research on this ahead of time, and I'm paying the price for it now. I do not know how to clean this leather up, and I'm afraid that if I put it back on here, it's just going to be a real nightmare. I might try something a little different today. Well, I've wrapped other things, but let me go ahead and try to take some of this 550 cord that I've been kicking around forever, and I'm going to wrap the handle with the 550 cord, and we'll see how that looks. So here's this knife. I'm going to have to do some research, or if anybody knows it offhand, please leave it in the comments. That'd be helpful. Maybe save me a little bit of time searching around on the internet. And that's just a quick paracord wrap on there. I've sort of got mixed feelings about paracord handles, but for now I think I've got some leather somewhere. It's in one of these boxes around here, and I don't want to go out and buy anything when I know I already have it. So I'm going to set the rivets aside for now, and later on when I know more about how I want to finish these handles. I honestly think that leather's not an ideal handle for this thing. I would much rather go with maybe I should do scales on it. I like the perfect handle. This is Scoutcrafters. Just did a version on this, and that was because Russ had traded me for it. I actually have two of these. This one, very few and far between I'll find something that just has character and patina on it and I want to preserve it. This was one of those cases. This thing was just so chowdered up and beat up that I said, let's keep this one the way. And I use it all the time. It's been holding up well, and of course this one has been refinished. But the scales on here, I think this knife would look much better with a wooden scale as opposed to the old leather ones. And if I epoxy them on there, I think it'll keep the moisture out. The downside to this handle, while it's comfortable, and I think it will stay on there, it's not going to fall off or anything because it's seized down in there, is that this is going to hold every bit of moisture and sand and grit. It's just not an ideal handle for these things. But in sort of an escapist or bug out bag kind of thing, having extra 550 cord on hand is a nice thing to have. So that's actually an asset or a resource that if you're gonna find yourself in a situation in a pinch and you need some rope, then you just undo the handle on here, which is the upside of having one of these. So I'll do a little research or figure out what this thing is actually for, and maybe we'll see it in another video depending on what it is and how much use I get out of it. But you can see just how thick the back of that is. It's almost like a froe for splitting wood, but it doesn't explain. I would think it would be a froe, except for it has this end on it. No idea. Alright, enough rambling. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I hope you're having a good week. Thanks.